Other people have joined us. We got a nice group of people here. Thanks for being here. Feel free, since we don't have live communication, you can just throw a comment in either here or on YouTube if you're on YouTube, and I will check. I do need to bring up the YouTube comments. So where is that? I forget. Comments. Okay, there we go. All right, well, we'll see what happens on there. All right, well, welcome everyone. My name is Jeremy. This is being recorded, and you can watch it later as well. But my name is Jeremy, and we're going to take a look at data tables, do a showcase of this JavaScript library. I thought once in a while I should do this, just showcase different JavaScript libraries and how they're being used. Hey, Orlando, glad you're here. Thanks for your support. Appreciate you coming to everything we do here. So I like this idea of maybe every Monday doing a showcase. In fact, this one here, I kind of had to break it into two pieces. So I'll probably do one again next week, just to break it up, because again, it's there's quite a bit of features that we can do. So if y'all can hear me, if everything is okay, if it ever gets a little blurry, let me know. I'll try not to move things, but this, recording streaming software is a pain in the butt to get right. I've tried 5 different things since I started, and none of it is ever perfect. So I wish that my location had fiber internet, so maybe that would have helped. Anyway, well, welcome. I have an agenda for today, a quick agenda here. It's let's see, very, very simple. We're just going to take a look at this library called DataTables. We're going to talk about how we're going to talk about the features of DataTables just out of the box, and then we're going to take a look at a lot of the other features of DataTables. I've been working with this library for 8 years now, and every time I work with it, I learn something new. In fact, just this weekend, I was learning new stuff as I was prepping for a course and all this stuff, and this as well. So, and if you have any questions about it, I don't have any sort of question format for us, so just throw it in the chats, and we'll see if I can get it to work here. So again, welcome everybody. Let's get started here. I want to start by taking a look at just what DataTables is, what the library is, where it is, and just talk about its general uses. DataTables is a library that produces list views in FileMaker. It allows us to take a list view, take some data, and show it in a format that is familiar to our users. Whether it is a list view, or it is a portal, or any other kind of list that we might do in FileMaker, this DataTables library allows us to take the data and present it to our users in a list. If you've taken my course, JS and FM, you know that there's we spend some time with this in the last of the 6 sections. I think we spend a lot of time getting this working, and actually the hook of that section of the lesson is to be able to take one set of data from one table, the customers table and the final admissions table, and put it into one implementation, one web viewer, one layout, and 2 different data sets. That was the crux of the section, the lesson there. We spent some time learning how to pass different data in and show it in the same web viewer, and this is useful. Whether or not you need 2 sets of data, that doesn't matter. It's this idea that you can use multiple sets of data. In fact, many times I have replaced 6 or 8 or 10 portals with many different, with one web viewer. I'm gonna pass, let me see if I can get the link here. Somebody is asking for it. See if I can get this. Let me know. Sorry, we're someone was trying to ask for my help. So, okay, so this is what DataTables is. Now, once you get familiar with this, it takes just a few minutes to set up. I want to share just the basics of this, and then we can talk more about it. I am using a script called get data, and it is using the execute data API script step to go fetch data. I'm in this script, and the behind the scenes of this lesson is that I'm passing a parameter from the button that was clicked. This the parameter is used in the execute data API script steps layouts property, and it will allow you to fetch the different data. So using execute data API script step, that's the only way from now on that I will collect data for a web viewer. It's just easy. I've got this actually default script that I can put into any file and get it going. Colin, I see your question. I will definitely answer that here. So this is how it is. Shoot. 1 second, everyone. Someone is asking me. It's also. Okay, sorry. Okay, so fetching data, it's pretty straightforward. We're collecting the data into an array, and we're passing it back to the FileMaker, to the web viewer, and the web viewer is handling it. Now, once the data gets into data tables, into the JavaScript, into the library, all sorts of craziness happens. The data tables implementation knows all of the columns, and obviously it's going to put the data in the correct columns. And right out of the box, DataTables gives us a lot of features. I haven't done a whole lot of work to this. I'm just passing it data, and we've got a ton of features built in. At the outset, I have some pagination. I can change the number of items per page, or I could show all of them if I wanted to, in the case of a portal. And what I love is that this is completely, I can search any column that I allow it to be searched on for a particular string or number, and it will just find it. As you see, I'm scrolling through. This is only 200 records, but I am finding that the search is instantaneous. This is a local file for sure, but there is no, unlike when we work with list views or portals inside of FileMaker, sometimes the data has to be fetched from the server. All of the data, once it's in here, all of the data here is inside of the web viewer and is not, we don't need to fetch it anymore. We don't have to anyway, and we'll get to it in a bit. So that's really cool. Now, this one is handling 9,000 records, so there's just a smaller bit of a delay, but it's not that difficult. So these options, and I didn't mention this, but we've got the sorting happening. So it's sorting through 9,726 records in an instant. Every column by default is on. I've actually turned this column off here on purpose. I didn't think searching by zip code was, or ordering by zip code was useful. But this just gives us so many features right out of the box. And for many implementations of data tables in FileMaker, this is perfectly fine. It shows the data, allows paging. and it's just good to go. You don't need to get into the advanced features, but there is quite the possibility to do that as well. So that is the stuff about data tables. Now, this right here is it's kind of weird here. It's so small. This is the documentation that I refer to, datatables.net. It's actually a library that's been around for quite a long time, at least 10 years. I don't really know a history of it at the moment, but it's pretty useful. It is using jQuery, which is a older library, very useful for dealing with elements in the browser and fetching them and changing them and all this stuff. But it's just that's an older tech, but it still works just fine. So datatables.net is the documentation, and this is where I learn, I read about. When I'm bored sometimes sitting here at my desk, I read through this documentation and learn more about it. Okay, so let's take a look at the data. We've looked at the data tables here. We've looked at what it does. By the way, I think I mentioned this a little bit, but any option here that you see, anything that you see, can be changed. I see, Colin, you asked, does pagination include last? I believe it could, yes. It doesn't here. I didn't build that. This is what I can get right out of the box. But there is a ability to put the word last there and allow people go first to last. So to your point, Colin, anything that you see here is changeable. The numbers that are here, whether this shows up at all, whether we can search at all, whether we have the pagination. And you can, like I did, I turned off the search for this zip column. I can turn off the ordering for this column. I could also turn off the searching for this column as well. So I really have complete control. By default, everything is searchable. Every column is searchable. Every column is orderable. But I can turn all that off. And there's a lot more that I could turn on and off. And that's what I'm interested in showing you throughout this time. In fact, why don't we just do that a little bit here? I'm going to just spend a few minutes going over this stuff so you kind of get a taste of what can be done and how it can be done. I'm going to move to a different view here. And again, I'm sorry if the quality gets a little bit low. I'm going to try to be still and such. So this over here is FileMaker on the left, or above me, whatever. And next to me is VS Code, which is my, together these two are my development environments. When I run a startup a script over here in the terminal, I get to control anything over here that I want. I could come in here and I could say paging false. So when I use that option there, and then I rerun it in FileMaker, I lose all the pagination because I turned that option off. And obviously this is a great possibility for a feature for things. You don't need paging if it's only 7 records that that you'll show, or if you would just rather have a traditional like portal thing where it just shows all the data if the data is small amounts. So that is this development environment, and I've talked a lot about that. I've presented. I've got some times coming up in May that talk more about this. But this is the crux of this. I can take one of the features and turn it on or turn it off as I wish. There we go. So now the searching is off. Very good. I can take the city column, and if I want to, I can turn it off by coming into here to the definition of the city column and saying searchable false. When I do that and reload it, now if I type it, well, sorry, I'll do orderable. That's what I meant to do. Orderable. When I do that, now I cannot sort by this column. By default, I can. but it takes some extra effort to turn it off, which is kind of the opposite of what we do. Exactly the opposite of what we do. It takes a lot, if you've ever done this, to build these columns that will search just, or will order just that column. I know there are great implementations out there, things that we can plug and play almost, but this, we don't even have to plug and play. We can just plug and go. We can just install and go. All right, so that is a little bit about how this works. I don't want to dive into too much of this because, I mean, this is pretty standard. Notice I put a yellow on here for some reason. I have a styling here. I'm not sure where that went, why that is. Maybe I put it in my... So I really can control everything about this. And that's what's fun about this. That's also what's can be a little aggravating, is that there's a lot of controls. But what I'd like to show you now is just some of the higher level features that make this really worth it and give DataTables some extra oomph. Let's see, we have a comment. Where is this file that you're editing? There's various places. I have a DataTables in-depth course that I'll talk about at the end that includes this this repo that you can take and adapt to your own. It is part of the JS and FM course, so you kind of get these repos for being part of those. I might have a starter that's a file that's public, but these are typically would be on my GitHub, and I would make them available to the people who want to learn this and start working with it. So I hope that answers your question, Tom. Very good. All right, so let's go into some of the nice features of this, and I gotta get back to where I was. Let's see. So you don't mean to download. Let me know what you mean, and we'll figure that out. Oh, good question. So the files are this file. Let's go back here. This file here. Both of these files are locally on my system. They sit right here. The FileMaker file could be hosted. It's not a problem. It's the connection that we have to an open FileMaker file, the web viewer on a layout, and the VS Code document over here, the repository over here, that makes this all work. So this FileMaker file could be anywhere as long as I can open it and I have administrator privileges, full access privileges. I am able to, keep this flow going while I'm doing development. This is what's the advantage of this development environment, is that I can keep working left to right and not break my stride. You know me, I've been talking about this stuff for a while. I've tried all the different methods for working with JavaScript code, and I've landed on this as the most efficient way, I'll say that, to do my work. Okay. So I want to review some features. Yes, there's a lot of great basics that I could do with this, a ton of stuff here, and I want to get into those. I showed you some of the very basics. DataTables does have... good question. Okay, so I will demonstrate Dan's question, which probably is helping me understand what Tom is asking. Okay, good question. So I'll just go ahead and answer that right now. I, as the developer, am doing development, and I wanted to get it to look like I turned off the paging and I turned off the searching. This is what I want for my clients, for my particular client. I'm the developer. I'm working with these two files. When I'm done with this development, I can, over here in VS Code, I can run a little script here. And what that does is it takes all my code over in VS Code, it builds it into one single file, and then it sticks it into a field here in this local file. So the method that I'm choosing to go and that I advocate for is just stick it in a a HTML field of an HTML table or a preferences table, wherever it could be. And once it's there, I don't have to have VS Code. I can close it out. I'm done with VS Code. And then any user can come here and access the code, access the JavaScript that I wrote, and make it, see the data as I intend for them to see. Now, if they come and say, you know what, Jeremy, we love it, but we really need this search on. I say, okay, well, let me open up my version, my repository. And I'm going to turn the searching on. So true, say true, or I'll just get rid of it because that's on by default. Then I'll run that little script again, npm run deploy to fm. Okay, it's a new version has uploaded with that change. I can close out VS Code now. And now when my clients come to this, that feature is enabled and everybody is able to access it. I'll say anybody who is able to access the data in this table, this field. That would be more technically correct, I think. I hope that answers your question, Tom and Dan. This doesn't have to be the way. I've talked about this before. I could actually host this code on a repository somewhere. And I have done that before in just testing. I could build this and then I could host it. I personally use Vercel to host my databases, and I could just link to that right here in the web viewer, and it's good to go. I do talk about this a lot in the in my course. Number one, I'll point out a couple things and then we'll get to it. I have a course called Getting Started with the JavaScript Development Environment that walks people through all of this stuff, except for that last part, which would be hosting to a CDN or a server. I don't talk about that. I do talk about putting it into that FileMaker, into that field. So this course here in the community is free for everybody to go because I'm really interested in people learning about this, finding themselves like, wow, this is great. I'm going to learn more about JavaScript and FileMaker. This just makes it so much easier to do the work. All right, so that course there, I've got the JS and FM site too that walks through this, that gives understanding about how to set this up. It's just the text form of the course. And talks about stuff under the hood, this one is about the different services, apps that we're using in GitHub and all this stuff. So yeah, that's what this is about. You can read more about those there, and I'll put those links in the chat so you can see them. All right, let me see if we have any more questions. This is pointing to the various libraries online, correct? Good question, Doug. Thank you for asking that. Actually, in some cases it is, in some cases it's not. So in this version, because I was very deliberate about this with the choice, this version, yes, this is pointing to the libraries that are hosted online by the provider, the author who wrote these. I did this to show that this can be done, but it doesn't actually have to be this way. There are methods, and I get into this in the course and in the JS and FM documentation. Doug, and you were part of that remember when we did the C3 thing, we can import the entire code library into the repository, and then it becomes inlined, it becomes available offline. The FileMaker database doesn't have to reach the internet, the browser, the web viewer, in order for it to work. Yes, that's right. That's right, Dan. I would strongly recommend you go through the Getting Started with the JavaScript Library development environment. And also, if you'd like to take the main JS and FM course, that's available too. The DataTables one, I've actually thought about this. Like, how am I going to get people from not knowing how to do this to the DataTables in depth course? So stay tuned. I will reach out if you'd like to go through the course. I would love for you to do that. It's a great opportunity to learn a lot about JavaScript and FileMaker. All right, so let's go to some of the features, because I want to show what DataTables is capable of. number one, we talked a little bit about this, but it's the idea that we can fetch the data from FileMaker. What you saw initially was just one way that I have fetched data. You couldn't really tell how I fetched the data. But the previous version that I showed a few minutes ago, the web viewer was blank, and then suddenly there was data in it and the DataTables library, the framework around it. All right, Tom, thank you for coming. It is recorded, so you're welcome to check it out later. Let's see. Okay, so but but we can leverage data tables to fetch the data when we want it to. And so now I'm going to pull that up and show that. So here is the data tables, another version. And if you just watch carefully when I hit the load customers, you're going to see a little bit of a difference from the previous version. In this version, it was very fast, so I'll slow it down by loading 9,000 records. In this version, you notice that the library itself loaded. You got to see a loading indication, even just those 3 words, those few characters. After data tables loaded, after it made the search bar over here and the paging and all that stuff, then it went to fetch the data. And that is a very useful feature of data tables. We can, after the data tables library loads, we can go fetch the data. This allows for some sort of indication for your user that nothing's wrong. We're just going to fetch the data however long it takes. Okay. In this case, again, on a local file here, I'm fetching 9,000 records. It's a, half a second, whatever the case may be. Yeah, so that is that with this feature. It's pretty useful. I would use this in some circumstances. I certainly don't feel like I need this all the time because there is a couple extra steps you have to build into data tables to get this to work, to go fetch the data. It's not unreasonable. And this is one of the modules that I do have available in the data tables in-depth course, which I'll show you at the end. Actually, I should show you now. I'll show you now. Let me just show you now. So I am going to do that. Here is my data tables in-depth course. This, by the way, is a website that I have that I actually, all of this data comes from FileMaker. I use FileMaker as basically my course management system, and then I populate it to here. So these are the modules that some of them I'm going to walk through. And if you're familiar with data tables and want to learn more about how to do grouping and such, you can check out the course. I've got a preview here, and I've got a enrollment where you can take a look at it. Let me show you outside of this profile because it's, there we go. How about that? So, wait, where'd it go? Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I didn't realize that. So anyway, so these are the modules that you can go through and see what is useful to you. And that's what I'm going to be going through today and going through now. So check those out, integratingmagic.io, and it's, I'll put this in the chat. Okay, so fetching all the data is a useful tool, and you learn how to do that in the course, in the module, that's that. I'm going to do a little bit of refinement on that course, but no, not that one. So anyway, so we've got the fetching all the data. That's pretty awesome. We can also, yep, I'm out of order here. We can also, where is it? There it is. We can also fetch some of the data. This is an interesting idea where, and this will go to your question, Colin, about 500,000 records. We can, rather than fetching all 500,000 records, it's perfectly fine because in those instances when we fetch all the records, all 9,000 or 200, data tables handles all of the sorting and searching and paging and length, page length, and all that stuff. But we can actually fetch only some of the data. If you don't, 500,000 records is a lot of records to fetch, even using perform script on server, using the execute data API script step. But we don't necessarily need to do all 500,000 records because the user will only see a couple of them at a time, right? So here's the file. And I'm going to, I'm still going to load 200 records. I'm going to fetch from the 200 record table. But in this case, I'm just fetching these 10 records. The reason why DataTables knows to fetch only 10 records is because this number 10 is here and we're on the first page. Every time I change something here, or the search over here, or the pagination, or the sorting for that matter, DataTables says, all right, you want me to sort by this column, you need to have this many per page, and you're on this page number. It'll go fetch just those records. So Colin, your 500,000 records, we can search through all 500,000 records of them, but only return 10 at a time. Finding and returning 10 at a time is going to be a lot quicker for FileMaker than it would be to fetch all 500,000 records at a time. DataTables will present the records as, yeah, I searched through all 500,000 records of them. Here's 10 of them. But in reality, it's only gathered 10 of them. And this again is another module that allows us to, what we're doing is we're destroying everything that DataTables does that I showed originally, where it will handle the search when I type something in here. It'll handle the pagination and the number of entries and we're having to manually recreate it. Luckily, we get to recreate it with the FileMaker Data API script step. So here's what's happening. If I change this to 50, that immediately triggers FileMaker to run, and it's going to, from the JavaScript, where'd it go? From the JavaScript, it's going to get a request. So I'll make this a little bit easier to see. Do I have it here? Yeah, I do. Sorry if it's too small, but this came from the JavaScript that says, all right, rather than 10 now, I want you to give me 50. And this is in the structure of the execute data API query that we need to pass it since FileMaker 19. So all of this was determined from the JavaScript, from the little drop downs and the page numbers and all that stuff. And it knows where to go and what records to fetch. So this, again, if I'm on page 5, if I click from page 1 to page 5, let's just take a look at that request again and just see how it changed. All right, so here's the request. There's the request. So now it's saying still limit of 50, get the 5th page of 50 records, which would be 201 to 250. Or 51, I guess. So there we go. So that is a little bit about this feature here, and you can learn more of it. But this allows us to give complete control. It is a little bit challenging because we have to deal with stuff that DataTables doesn't deal with. If I, for example, and thank you for Doug for bringing this up. If I type in PA, this is going to bring 12 entries that have PA in one of these 4 columns. But if I type in F, I'm going to get an issue where DataTables would handle this differently. It would think that these are 2 separate words. FileMaker thinks it's just 1 word. And so I need to refine the query to handle something like this, but it can be done. All right. Next one is conditional formatting. So conditional formatting is something we do in FileMaker a lot. It's worth looking at how we would do it here. And as I go through these features, if you're not seeing this, I'm really showing the things that are most useful in FileMaker. And so that's what I'm trying to get across here. So in this case, I have created a system where I'm conditionally formatting a row based on the sales of a particular, for each client or customer. So we can see there's a threshold there. There's the greens and so forth. So we've got some nice conditional formatting. We all know how to conditionally format in FileMaker. It's relatively the same. We just look at a number and we use an if statement and go forth and do the work. What the advantage of this is, of course, is that there is no performance cost to this. FileMaker isn't having to calculate each row's value and thus background color or what. And we can't even conditionally format a background color, can we? We have to put a button behind it, don't we? I forget. I haven't conditionally formatted for a while, but in FileMaker. But this is a lot easier. We just apply a CSS class to this and tell it what color to put in. So that's a nice feature that we would do in FileMaker without any performance cost. And you notice here, I showed this, but I actually did some extra formatting where I just formatted anything for some reason. I just did this as an example, but I said, I've got the background color, but I can also change an individual cell. So in this case, I've got, well, let's just look at it here. Let's do this. So let's do all states, sort, look here, find the Texas. So you notice here, I built in some conditional formatting to say, if the state equals Texas, make the sales color, text color purple. I just did it as an example. It may be a better way to, to call out certain pieces of data. All right, so that is a beautiful feature. And again, it's not that complex. And again, there is no performance problems. The next one is sort of related, and that would be working with calculations. We can take the data that comes from FileMaker and perform calculations on the fly. In this case right here, I've hidden the city and the state and the zip code columns, but I've used them to create a new column on the fly. People were interested in this case, I'm just making up a reason, but people were interested in seeing the address like this. They didn't want 3 separate columns. As a FileMaker developer, we would have to go into, if we wanted to do a list view or a portal, we would have to go into FileMaker and create, there's 2 ways we could do it. We could create a new field, a calculated field, or since, I don't know, 14 or 15, we can use a button bar. A lot of people use button bars as calculation, as a calculation renderer. This one just takes over for that and allows me to create 1 column from 3 different columns worth of data. And again, I don't have extra hidden buttons or anything. It's just define a column and tell it how to show the data. Additionally, over here on the sales, the numbers are it's just a number in FileMaker, but in this case, I wanted to add a $sign and just make it all 2 decimal places. So again, DataTables gives us the option to create these calculations and these on the fly without any issues. Or merge fields in a text object. That's right, we could do that. That's right, yes. For sure, yeah. Very good. So these are good ways. This is a nice feature, and I use this a lot. If there's any feature that pops out at the end, if you want to ask more questions about it, just make sure you take notes, and I'll be glad to share more about it. Everything that I am demonstrating here are in separate modules in this big course. Some of them aren't quite done yet, but I'm finishing them up. So you can also learn more about them in those. The next one is this adding buttons feature of DataTables. Again, we can take a row and add a button to it. And I even, in the course, I even added, so here are 2 buttons that I've added. They look nice, they fit the theme. I've also added a link here. And in all of these cases, I am doing something. In this case, I'm running a FileMaker script that gets back the primary key of that record of the row that I clicked on. And I threw in here an action. So this one is a sales link that I clicked on. And I may want to, if I look at that, I go, I want to see what actual sales totaled up to $837. So there you go. And now I can go and do FileMaker-y things to find that record, those records. This one is an edit action, so I could open up a card window to edit this data and then save it. And then this one, it would be a view. So this is just another way to add functionality without, adding a bunch of stuff. And I didn't mention this before, but DataTables is handling the formatting of this very well. I'm going to take this one and make it really small. DataTables will handle the responsive nature of this pretty remarkably. There's not a whole lot that we have to do. We can define it and say, no matter what, I want this column to be 50% of the table. We may want that for some reason. So DataTables can handle that, and it can size things appropriately. So as you see here, I've got some there is a limit, but I've got some wrapping going on. That's it's just doing it on its own. So I guess that's a sleeper feature that didn't talk about. Yes, yeah, merge fields and stuff, but yeah. All right, so let's keep on going. Grouping and sub-summaries. This is a great thing that we do in FileMaker. That's fine. Grouping. Wait, am I there yet? Yes. Grouping data. Oh, that's why. Let's see here. Yeah. Shoot. All right, so my slides got messed up. Sorry about that. So we'll do this on the fly here. So one of the things we also can do is create groups and sub-summaries of the data that comes in from FileMaker. We can summarize it on the fly and group it on the fly as well. So let's take a look at that. So here is my data in just its normal glory. There is no sorting by nature, and I realized I haven't done this for a while in FileMaker, but we can start with a list view that is just unsorted or is sorted by the first column. By the way, sorting is another feature. We can decide which column gets sorted when it loads. But as soon as, so if I click these, everything is fine. But as soon as I click the state, I'm invoking some sorting on the fly. And again, this is done in FileMaker, no problem. Sub-summaries will only show up when their targeted field is sorted by, right? That's how it goes. So this isn't nothing new, especially, but it just gives us a little bit more flexibility. You can see I have I can't remember what we call it in FileMaker. It's before the summary, before the group, and then after the group. I've got those two rows here. In this case, then are summing up the total number of sales for that state. So, again, this isn't, I don't think this is going to blow your mind because we do this in FileMaker every single day. But what I'm trying to get across is that we can do this with the JavaScript too, with this library too. And again, there's no performance hit on this. I think sub-summary fields can slow down, right? Is that right? They can slow down the rendering of a table. Here, we don't have any of that problem. Everything is handled on its own. So again, if I type in Texas, then I'm just getting that group. I'm just getting it on the fly, ready to go. Yeah, you're right, Kyle. JS can process the data much faster. Dan, I like the fact that the column being sub-summarized. Yeah, oh, exactly. That's right. I built that in there too. So the state is here. When I sub-summarize by that, I cause it to disappear. It was something I threw in. But the column visibility is we'll show that in a bit. But the column visibility is a beautiful feature. All right, let's move on. I'm having fun here. Now this is supposed to be the. Let's see. I'm skipping over my steps, so we'll just go to this one. Another feature of data tables is to be able to add a child row to each row. I know that we try to do this in FileMaker quite often, and there are successful attempts at this. Data tables gives us a way to do this. In this case, I have removed the sales column, and instead I've put it in the expanded part. So I did the same thing, a calculation, a location concatenation here as well. But this allows me to put anything I want in here, that is relevant to this row. We know what that means. We know that it could be what could go in here other than just a number of sales. This would be a great way to show lots of different kinds of data. If you were doing a portal and were having trouble with the room, size of the portal, you could simply show one of the columns and then open this up and show all the other columns. And you don't lose any physical space on the layout. You're just expanding the row out, and the web viewer is handling all of this on its own. And of course, you could do projects with tasks underneath it for sure. In fact, and I was just about to say that you could do, you can show container data, images. In fact, you could put images in line here. I don't have this as a feature showcase on this one. I can show it next one. It is a module where you can learn how to add images to a row or to this expanded area. You could also show related data here. The execute data API script step will return related data in a portal data object. And you could throw all that stuff in here and have a nice parent-child relationship going on here. Yeah, there's just so many possibilities. Like, you could basically have 3 layers of relationships. You could have a parent record, like a student record. You could have each row be a year of grades, like 2022, 2023. And then underneath that, when you open this up, could be all of the actual transcript, all of the quarter or semester data for all the classes. So there's a ton of possibilities with this as well. All right, that's awesome. And it's not particularly difficult. We are all FileMaker developers. We know how to read functions and code and such. It does take some getting used to, because in this case, you're building, I built a table from scratch. Oh, didn't mention this before, but you could actually put another data table inside of this. You could have a whole nother implementation of this whole setup with different data in here. In fact, that the portal data would be a very good use case for that. So the limits are, there's very few limits about what you can do in here. You could add buttons, images. You could add weather data if you wanted to. You could go fetch it from somewhere else and bring it into FileMaker and then display it into here. Ton of possibilities. So that's the expanded rows, or the child rows, I call it. There we go. All right, let's see what else we got. Thank you, Alessandro. Have a good day. Got a few minutes left. I got a couple more. I got one more actually to show. And that is, which is kind of my favorite, is working with the DataTables API. Yeah, I just got all these messed up. We can, here's the data. Here's the data right here. We can do a lot of things to this. Dan saw the column visibility. I could choose to show or hide any column. When we tap into a libraries API, of which this has a very deep and rich one, we are making changes to the look of it, or we're making changes to something of it without having to refresh. Normally, if we were to change something, we would refresh the web viewer, wipe it all out, start it all over, in which case we would lose a lot of our stuff. If I was on page 5 and I had sorted by sales and I had searched for Texas, if I wanted to change something about this and I reloaded it, all of that gets wiped away. But with the API, I can have it like this, and then I can change something about it without destroying the state of it. So this is the API, and we can change things about it without. In the JS and FM course, we talk about APIs and how we can get in there. A silly one that I thought about was destroy. We can destroy the table, wipe it out. Not sure why we would do that, but we could. We could also clear it, which is interesting to me. We could clear it, just wipe out all the data, and then the converse of that would be to load data. So these go hand in hand, but we can do that if we need to. I haven't actually thought of a reason why I would want to clear the table. There is possibility. I didn't put it in here. Actually, I did put it in here to add a row. We could actually use the API to add a row, and we could let the web viewer just refresh itself every 5 seconds or 10 seconds and add new rows or edited rows as the records are being created or edited by other people. So clearing is an interesting thing I have to think about. If we were to, I guess the only reason I would do this is if I wanted to load a new data set that had the same columns. Otherwise, I would just flip back and forth between two buttons that just wipe it out and start over, because there is a lot of reinitialization to happen. We could order. I can use FileMaker to cause the ordering to happen, so I don't need to rely on this here. Might as well, but I could also do it in FileMaker. I love this one. I could also fix the order. So fixing the order means taking a column here, like the state, and locking that as the column that is always sorted by first. So here you notice the Wyoming stays front and the top, and I can sort all the other columns. I can fix the order by default. If I wanted to do that as a feature of data tables, I could do that in the initialization, but here I'm programmatically fixing the, and I think that, yeah, I can do this. So here we go. That's a beautiful get data. This is an interesting one that I haven't quite fully worked out yet, but it can actually get the data from the table. I'm not exactly sure why I would need this at the moment. I haven't studied this carefully. This is getting all the data. It's not getting any filtered data. So that's unfortunate. I'm sure there's a way to say if I did Texas to get just those records. At the moment, this is just pulling all the records. So I got to work that out, but I'm pretty sure there's a possibility. However, this one right here I mentioned is to add a row. So the data table could be sitting here, just having fun. I could, use it as a monitoring tool, and then suddenly something pops up. Wait, oh, that's why. Let's start over. I was thinking like, why is that working? So let's say I'm looking at the Florida data because I live in Florida. I could simply add a row and it gets added without having to do any refresh or losing where I'm at. And in this case, I highlighted it to show that it's green. We could build this in. We could build a ton of possibilities with this. If new records come in from anywhere in the system, they're colored green. If they are edited, they are colored orange, whatever the case may be. And I could just be sitting here looking at it. I did trigger this to happen. And if you notice that if I do this many times, because I'm just adding the same record every time, it's just going to do that every time. But you get the point, hopefully, that I can add rows in the middle of just viewing this. I could also delete rows if I didn't put that in here, but if I wanted to delete this record, I could open it up, delete it, and then cause data tables to remove the record. All right, so those are some of the features of data tables. I went through them pretty fast, but hopefully they're interesting to you. They're worth looking at, and even just using data tables in general. I'm a big fan of this or other libraries. I know Orlando, who's here, he uses another library called Syncfusion, which has a grid, and there's AG Grid, and there's lots of other grids out there. In my opinion, data tables is the best starter one for us because it's actually pretty simple to work with. It's fairly straightforward. It's just using some basic JavaScript, and it comes full featured right away. Some of them you have to build the features. Here we get a lot of good stuff right at the beginning, and then we can add to it and take away as we need. So these are just parts of what data tables can do. We in these modules we explore at least 19. I've got other ones in the works, but I'm I want to get these finished and made perfect before I add more. But this is available for people to explore how to work with data tables. I'll be do my little commercial here right away at the end. I offer these in different versions. I'm choosing they're each $50. You can purchase them individually. You can purchase many of them. If you want to purchase like 6 of them, you could just pay 6 times 50. And then I don't have a process for you choosing them yet. I don't have a shopping cart, but I would just email you and say, hey, you purchased 6 of them. Which ones do you want? And I will manually put you into them. There's also an option to purchase all of them there. And I do have these for $7.50. And then I do have these learning tier where every course that I make from now through your subscription, you'll have access to, including the JSNFM training, including all 19 or 25 of these, however many it turns out to be. But that's a subscription, and you get access to all my courses that I work on for JSNFM, for JavaScript, for FileMaker developers who are using JavaScript. So take a look at those. Every one of them comes with the lesson and notes and support from me. After you've gone through them and you get stuck and you need help implementing something in your own file, you reach out and we'll take 30 minutes, an hour to get it working for you. I am fully committed to helping people through this to get it working in their own apps so that they can use this on their own. Of course, you could always just hire me to do this for you. I can do it quickly and good, but this is for FileMaker developers to learn more about how to work with JavaScript and FileMaker, and of course, just again the JSNFM course and other courses that I have that are out there. All right, so that is it. I'm going to do something more next week and do another round of the showcase. I'm also going to take a real file. Problem is I don't have real files. I don't have any active clients where I build lots of stuff for them. I do widgets and then I move away from their file and I don't have access. So I want to take a file, and I'll find one from me, and replace all of my portals and my list views with data tables and just show how it's possible to do that. But we'll also do another showcase about this stuff in the coming weeks. All right. Do you have any further questions or thoughts or ideas? Kyle and Orlando, both strong advocates of data tables. Kyle's done a lot of work with it as well. So there's plenty of people. Matt Petrowski has talked about this before. I talked about this when I was at Selenium Consulting. It's in my web viewer integrations file. It's part of Carafe. All of those are the basic versions. I'm going to level up your basic version. So yeah, Orlando, highly recommend the course. Got me from 0 to using JavaScript daily in his integration. So yeah, he's really taken off with that. And so take a look around the community. The JSNFM course has 107 lessons, and again is supported by me to make sure you get all the way through it and that you are successful in implementing it into your own app. So, all right. Thank you, Dan. Well, very good. Well, we'll see you around. Stop by the community, say hi. We'll do every Wednesday. I do office hours as well, and we talk about this stuff. Usually we talk about data tables. Sometimes we talk about other things. So just whatever's on my mind and the participants' minds, we chat about. So come all that. All right. Thank you all. See you next time when we do this again. Bye-bye.